All right, so moving on from the agenda, we're going to take a look at the location portion, which is down here. And I just realized that whenever I scrolled down to start typing in the location comments area, we didn't have one. It jumped straight to sponsors. So I'm going to copy sponsors, my mistake, and we're going to paste that and change the name here to location, like that. So now we have a place to start typing our location stuff. So let's start by creating an ID selector for location. And let's give that a background color. And we'll use that linen variable. Let's say -- linen. Okay, so it's not pure white now. Actually, you know what? It's supposed to be magenta. I'm pretty sure. So, like, I don't know why I'm calling it linen. Yeah, that's supposed to be magenta. Just was looking at the wrong thing. All right, so magenta, right. Let's try that again. Magenta. There we go. Okay. And right off the bat, I can tell you that the typography needs to be a different color. I think that's what I was getting all confused about. We'll say that the color for the type, so the color is going to be, let's just do the variable. Let's try that again. Variable, don't know what's wrong here, -- okay, linen, like that. And then now I know that my type is the right color for the most part. Just need to change this to gold. I think that was the correct color. Yeah, it's that gold color. So let's jump back over to here and we'll do a new selector for location H2, and we will specifically give it a color of the variable gold. I just keep mistyping that for some reason. Don't know why. There, let's just try this. Be a little less hasty in my typing. Okay, let's see, make sure that looks right. And it seems to. Let's just move that so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. And I also want to make sure that I am making sure that this thing gets padding. So I think that we can do the padding here. We could try doing it on location, but we also have like this loc info. Yeah, so let's just put it on location though. We can say the padding. I think that the other ones we did top and bottom for 8%, and then for the sides like 12%, and we'll go with that. I believe that that's going to work. Yeah. Okay, and I guess that the next thing that we need to really pay attention to is how to deal with the Google map. And so this is not just a picture any longer like it was in Figma. I went ahead and I grabbed the correct coordinates for the hotel that this false event is actually being hosted at. And you'll notice that we have a couple of things regarding the map. We have the iframe, right? But then we also have this div class equals Google Map. And what this div does is that it creates like a little box that will allow us to do some manipulation to the iframe. One of the things that's true about the iframes that Google Maps will put their maps in is that they can be very hard to manipulate. And so this is kind of a trick to do it without JavaScript that works fairly well. And so we're going to create, first of all, a class for this div in CSS. So we're going to create it dot Google dash map, right, like that. And then one of the things that's really important is that we give it a position of relative. And that's because we need to do some specific things to the iframe that require that the position be relative. Like we're going to give it some absolute positioning and stuff, and be really explicit with the height and the width. So the other thing that we need to do is, well, just leave that alone for a moment. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to create the Google dash map iframe. And we're being specific in case you ever wanted to add different iframes in your document that did other things. And so first of all, we're going to tell this to have a position of absolute, absolute, because we want it to be absolute relative to its parent. Okay, so the first thing that you might notice is that it looks like it doesn't have a height or a width, so we have to be, well, it doesn't look like it has a specific height, so we have to be really explicit since we pulled it out of the document flow, and we need to say height is 100% of its parent, and it looks like it's disappeared, but we also can tell it to have a width of 85%, and that way it'll only be 85% of the space. We also can tell it, let's say, the other thing that we need to do actually, because it's disappeared over here, is that in the Google Map class up above, we can tell it to have a padding bottom. Let's try 50%. Yeah, and essentially it's weird. All right, just trust me that these things are going to work. So if we are giving it a 50% padding, then it allows it to actually the width and the height to work a little bit better. And then I want to make it so it's not dead in line with this text over here. So we'll do like not a padding, sorry, we'll just say left. We're giving it an offset because its position is absolute. I can say exactly how many pixels or percentage points off the left to make it. So let's try like maybe 7%, I think 5%, something like that. Yeah, I think 7% is better. It looks a little bit more centered, kind of. And then we'll make it from the bottom. Let's do something like maybe 10%. Oh, or maybe we won't do that. Maybe I don't need to do that on the bottom. Let's just leave the, let's see if I do top. Yeah, I think that'll work. And then we can take a test drive and see how it looks if I scale it. And that's fine. The other reason that I think 7% off the left edge is a bit much. Let's maybe do 2. We can, or even 1. So it's, well, I don't know. I guess we could make it not 85%. Let's see about, let's try like 90%. Yeah. Okay. Then I could maybe do, let's say 2.5%. Oops, 2.5%. And that kind of centers it, and it doesn't look totally crazy weird. You could also just keep it lined up and do it at 100% too. I guess we should try that. Let's just say left is 0. Maybe I do like it that way instead. After all this monkeying around, maybe I do ultimately like it like that. And we might have to change it a little bit if we do a media query for mobile. The challenge sometimes with mobile is we don't always want all this padding, but we don't want a map that's scrollable to be 100% because then you could sometimes get yourself trapped inside the scrolling on a phone, and that's a problem. So, but for right now, I think that we're good. We'll worry about the stuff that we need to do with the media queries later. And I think that the only other thing that I did notice too that I forgot about is that in my Figma drawing, I had the address kind of a heavier type. So if I come in here and I tell it to do like the location, I think it was actually here, we don't even have to do location. If we look here, you can see that there's a P with a class address. So if I just say p.address, that means that the class of address that is assigned to, not inside, but assigned to P, let's say that we want that font variation settings property so that we're doing the weight. I think it's WHT, yep. We want the weight to be, let's say 500. It's a little bit bolder, but I think it stands out a little bit more. So if I click away, I think I like that a little bit better than having it just regular. Okay, so that being said, I think that we're essentially done. I could give actually one last thing. I think that the bottom for this location needs a little bit more padding. So instead of 8 and 12%, we're going to do 8 top, 12% for left and right, and then maybe 10% for the bottom. So that is a little bit more even looking. Okay. And now I think we are done. I'll save my file and we're going to move on to event sponsors for the next one.